Hello everyone. Today I wanted to check on you because the world around us may seem hostile right now. Perhaps we have situations on the daily that will make us struggle and make us think that we're lonely facing these struggles by ourselves. If this is you, or if you believe this is you, I would suggest to continue watching. So let's start from your own day-to-day life. If you have a day job, you probably wake up very early in the morning, feeling tired, relying on caffeine to move forward. You shower, you get ready, and then you get on your vehicle and you start driving. Most of us, whenever we drive to work, we're probably driving during rush hours. And what do we see around us? Traffic, frustration, bad drivers, and then you may get late for work, and that will make you feel anxious about your position at work. So it's a whole system that seems to be working against you. I still deal with traffic, and I don't let it affect me. I see people struggle, people around me. I look around at other vehicles. You see people frustrated and driving really badly and then speeding to get to a red light. So what I started doing is following one of my passions. So my drive is my own time for me, for my self-growth, for me to meditate, for me to make plans, for me to uh, attempt to realize my dreams. So generally, I will put on podcasts. I listen to spiritual podcasts, I listen to financial advice, I listen to scientific podcasts. Sometimes I even listen to the news, although everything just looks so dark in the news. When I do that, I turn something that most people perceive as negative, sitting in traffic, as something really positive. Because the days I don't find traffic, that's perfectly fine. I got to work 30 minutes early. If traffic gets me stuck, I take that as a blessing as well, because during that time, I may have 10 more minutes to listen to another podcast. I may have 10 more minutes to meditate on my life, make plans, make financial moves. So all of that becomes really positive. So this works at a very simple level. It works from a mindful and mental health perspective. Why? Because you're able to practice mindfulness during a negative time and you avoid the consequences of having negative feelings. Your long-term result is that you will avoid anxiety and depression and really bad mental health consequences from dealing with this. From a spiritual perspective, manifestation is tied to your own feelings, your own thoughts, and your own internal state. If your internal state is in harmony and peace with yourself, if you live in self-acceptance and you're compassionate and you practice love, then you will manifest really positive things. Otherwise, if you maintain low vibrational frequencies around yourself, you will attract more low vibrational frequencies. So here's my suggestion. When we work on a day-to-day basis, we generally work on a 3D perspective. The 3D world tells us that we need to be in survival mode. The reason why we experience anxiety, depression, and bad feelings is because those are protective mechanisms that we developed. Those are evolutionary mechanisms that allow us to deal with potentially negative events. But listen carefully to what I just said. We're talking about potentially negative events, meaning they're not here yet. So one of the secrets of manifestation is that if you keep staying in the state of anxiety and in a state of anger and sadness and depression, what will happen is that you will manifest those negative things that you're trying to avoid. And you will see it. When you have self-doubt, it will happen. I challenge you to live from a 4D perspective. And the 4D reality, what we see is that we understand things more from a quantum perspective. From a quantum perspective, what I mean is that everything that we see will manifest, that we control the reality around us. And the way we do it is by the fact that when we're making a decision, and your decision may not just be an action that we see, it may be a thought or an emotion in place, but when we make a decision, there is the potential of multiple realities existing at the same time. When we understand that, when we realize that we are not just physical 3D creatures, but we're also 4D, 5D creatures, we can start seeing the potential of a decision. And then, by maintaining a good state, a good internal state within the 3D reality, we're able to attract the 4D version of ourselves that we know that is possible. Why? Because we were able to imagine it. So it's groundbreaking. So yes, the world may look really negative. Your internal state may be in conflict right now, but you may still be able to control reality because we're actually all connected. We all exist in connection with each other. Although many times we see ourselves as characters that face the result of the reality around us, in reality, you can be your own protagonist of your own reality. So this is how it ties up to the world situation right now. Because you would say, well, I've been trying to be peaceful, I've been trying to manifest things, I've been trying to practice love, yet there are all these things going on around us. There is a war that just started, gas prices are going up, the future is uncertain. How can I have control of the universe around me when all of the signs and symptoms around me show me that the universe is suffering and it's because of situations that are out of my control? And one way you could actually put that in perspective is the fact that those actions that we're seeing today are the result of previous actions of other individuals, group of individuals that together created the reality that we're in today. So it's really important. You're not the only person that has this autonomy to create this reality around yourself. There are billions of people with the same ability, whether they understand it or know it or not. Because of that, change is a slow process. It starts from you, within you, and then the awakening starts affecting other people as well. If you are awakened and then you try to wake up other people, they will also wake up, they will practice the same thing, and that's how you create change in the small context, but then that change will affect everybody. There is also this agnostic idea that many times we look at astrology and we see, well, the planets meant this for us from a Christian agnostic perspective. What you see is that the planets act as a script, but the script itself may be a trap. It may be other being with additional intentions that may be trapping you within this reality and forcing you to follow the script. That's why it becomes even more important to be awakened. So when I look at the Iran situation right now, that's happening now, I try to see the comparison between the sky the day the war erupted and the sky the day the Iran-Iraq war on 1980 erupted. So in 1980, on September 22nd, the Iran-Iraq war started. During that time, Mars was squared with Pluto. We know that Mars is the god of war. Pluto is the god of change and the starting of a new circle and rebirth. What we know is that from the revolution is when the communist socialist government found itself in alliance with the Islamist government. And because Iran was suffering of corruption at the time, what happened is that the two coalitions started this movement together, and the entire revolution, quote-unquote revolution, was about creating this change within the country, and this was considered to be a moral change. So they were saying we can fix the country by practicing better morality because the country has been suffering with corruption. And you will see this element in the fact that Mars is square with Pluto. Okay, so that aspect dealt more with morality and religion from a null perspective, not from a spiritual perspective. So moving forward, we get to February 28th of 2026, just a few days ago. And what you see is that we also have a Mars square, but this time it's not with Pluto, this time it's with Uranus. And Uranus is a lot of similar meanings to Pluto, a lot of similar roles, but Uranus is more associated with innovation. Uranus is also associated with awakening. Awakening is a great thing right now because what we've seen from the start of the revolution in the 1970s until now is this systematic oppression, particularly of women, religious oppression, gender oppression, oppression based on um, sexual orientation as well. And this has been happening for decades at this point. So there's been a need for several decades that needed to be addressed within the country that showed that people needed to focus more on their own freedoms, on their innovation, on their awakening. And slowly, what this brought is the fact that people were awakening over time. People were practicing the freedoms. We get back to this idea that now we have this revolution that's based on freedom, and then all of a sudden the country is getting help from the outside, where outside forces, namely the United States and Israel, that were able to liberate the country, but it's still a very difficult process. There's still a lot of anxiety about the potential duration of the war or the regime change that could happen. So all of those feelings as well happen with Uranus. And of course, Mars, as many of you may have guessed, is the planet of war. The Mars-Uranus square that we see is particularly important, especially if we understand that that peaked on February 27th. That was the day before the war erupted. So from an astrological perspective, I used to never believe in astrology. I thought it was just made up stuff. And what I see now is these patterns, and they happen not just with war, they happen with at an international level with financial stuff and new governments, and you can look at the birth charts of presidents and align them with the birth chart of the country and figure out that the moment they became president was something that was meant to be, that was written. So if you look at this from a deterministic perspective, then you may be discouraged because you may feel that you're living a reality where everything is predetermined. However, when you act like that, you forget your own creator role within the reality. You forget that you have divine spark within yourself. And if you're aware of the divine spark, then you can change and influence the reality around you. So in moments of darkness, I invite you to remember this. Remember that you're divine, you're part of God, you're part of the universe. The universe exists within you. And because of that, if you control your own internal state, you can control the reality around you. Finally, if you still struggle, I suggest you get back to one of my previous videos. I talk about a candle exercise. It's a visualization exercise that I've used a lot. I learned when I was young, and I keep practicing. It helped me with visualization. It helped me with focus and mindfulness. In this exercise, you grab a white candle, ideally something that can burn relatively fast. You want to burn it from beginning to end, and you focus on the flame. And when you focus on the flame, you can also focus on your breathing and your heart rate, and that allows all of the chaos around you to essentially shut down so that you can focus within yourself. So when the world around you is showing you really negative things, you can still find that internal peace. And then when you find that internal peace, you can start seeing the positive even in the darkest events. And of course, we're all sad when war and destruction and violence happens. But many times when those things come to surface, what also comes to the surface is this need for peace and love and acceptance and unity. And therefore, that should be perhaps the focus that you have when you get inundated with news and people were having a bad day, from your day-to-day routine, and keeping mindfulness and maintaining that internal peace will help you out, not just from a mindfulness perspective, but also from a spiritual perspective. I'm going to close and give you a blessing. If you made it this far, you will receive the blessing. You'll receive the blessing anyway, but if you make it this far, you'll be able to hear it. May you find your mindfulness and your internal peace. May you find calm within the storm. May you practice abundance and self-love and acceptance. And may these positive feelings and good energies guide you in your next steps in life. Somebody be.